The Cage of Stars. Far away from Earth, in a quiet part of the galaxy, there was a strange moon. No one lived there. No one visited. It was cold, dark, and forgotten. But something very old and powerful was trapped there, something with magic. Inside a glowing cage made of light and energy, a beautiful alien woman floated silently. Her name was Lyra. She was once a princess and a warrior of her people, but now she was a prisoner. The magical cage held her body still and silent, but her mind was wide awake. She had been trapped like this for over 500 years. No one had spoken to her. No one had seen her. The only thing she could do was think, dream, and hope that one day someone would come. And someone did. A small spaceship flew across the sky, its engines damaged. Smoke came from its side, and sparks flashed inside the cockpit. The pilot, a young human explorer named Jake, was fighting to keep the ship from crashing. "Come on, just a little further," Jake said, holding the controls tight. "Find a place to land." His ship broke through clouds and flew over the moon. The ship's system showed strange energy readings. Jake didn't care. He needed to land before the ship exploded. He saw a flat area near a glowing crater. The light was strange, bright blue and white, like stars caught in the ground. Jake brought the ship down hard. The landing was rough, but he survived. Jake stepped out, coughing. He wore a thick suit and helmet. His boots crunched on the dusty moon surface. Where am I?" he asked, looking around. Then he saw it. A giant cage floated in the middle of the crater. It was made of shining light, spinning slowly. Inside it, a woman with silver hair and glowing eyes floated without moving. Her body looked perfect, like she was frozen in time. Jake had never seen anything like her. As he stared, he heard something, a soft voice. But it wasn't in his ears, it was in his mind. "Who are you?" Jake jumped. "What? Who said that? Please, don't be afraid." Jake looked at the woman. Her eyes were open now. They were staring at him. He took a step back. "You're alive." "Yes," the voice said sadly. "I've been waiting for so long." Jake walked closer. The air around the cage buzzed. His scanner beeped wildly. The energy from the cage was strong, stronger than anything he had seen. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Lyra. I was once a princess. Now, I am a prisoner of magic." Jake's heart pounded. He had only come to explore new worlds. He had never expected something like this. Lyra continued, "They locked me here because I tried to stop a war. My people believed I was dangerous, so they used the old magic to trap me. And I have been here ever since." Jake walked around the cage. He saw symbols floating in the air, ancient letters he didn't understand. "Why are you talking to me now?" he asked. "Because you are the first soul to come near me in centuries. You have light in you. You are different." Jake felt strange. Something warm moved through his chest. He looked at her face. She was sad, but still strong. "I want to help you," he said quietly. The cage flashed. Jake jumped back. A sudden shock hit his chest. His fingers burned. "You must not touch the light," Lyra warned. "It will hurt you. The magic is old. It hates kindness." Jake looked at his hand. It was red and shaking, but he smiled. "That's okay," he said. "I've been hurt before." Lyra's eyes softened. "Can the cage be broken?" he asked. "Only by someone who truly sees me, not as a weapon, not as a queen, but as a person." Jake nodded. "Then maybe there's hope." He turned to leave, planning to get tools from his ship. But just then, the ground shook. The lights in the cage flickered. A sharp noise filled the air, like a scream from the stars. Jake looked back. A thin crack had formed in the cage's surface. It glowed like fire. "Did you see that?" he asked. Lyra stared, eyes wide. No one has ever made the cage crack. Until now. Jake didn't know what was happening, but he knew one thing. This moon, this cage, and this woman were all part of something big. And someone, or something, would not be happy that the cage was breaking. A voice in the silence. Jake stood in the glowing light of the cracked cage, heart racing. The air around him felt alive, buzzing with strange energy. Lyra floated quietly inside, but her eyes followed him, wide, bright, and filled with something Jake didn't expect. Hope. For 500 years, no one had ever come close enough. No one had ever dared to touch the cage. But Jake had done both. He didn't understand what made him different. He was just a pilot, a wanderer in space, trying to survive. And yet here he was, standing before an ancient power he couldn't explain, and a woman who spoke inside his mind. Jake turned and hurried back to his ship. His hand still hurt from touching the cage. It was red and pulsing with heat. The energy had burned his skin, but something else had happened too, something deeper. He felt it inside him, like a new voice whispering just out of reach. He stepped into his small ship and sat in the control seat. He needed answers. "Computer," he said, breathing heavily. "Access all files on magical containment fields. Search alien records. Cross-check unknown symbols from the crater." The screen flickered for a few seconds. Then alien symbols began to appear. Some matched what he saw on the cage. Old languages, ancient ones, warnings, spells, names of forbidden orders. Then one phrase blinked in red. "Order of silence. Do not approach. Dangerous prisoner. Eternal curse. Death to the one who breaks it." Jake stared at it. "Dangerous prisoner," he repeated. "But she doesn't look dangerous." He remembered her face. Calm. Sad. But not evil. She said they locked her up because she tried to stop a war. He leaned back. He had been part of battles too, years ago on Earth. He had seen leaders lie, soldiers die, and civilians get crushed by orders from people who never saw the front lines. Jake knew what betrayal looked like. He had lived through it. He looked at the screen again. "Eternal curse," he whispered. "What kind of curse keeps someone frozen for 500 years? Suddenly, a voice entered his mind again. Softer now. Warmer. "Jake." He sat up straight. "Lyra?" "Yes," she said. "I can feel your thoughts. When you touched the cage, our minds linked for a moment." He swallowed hard. "What do you mean, linked?" "I saw flashes," she said. "You lost someone. A brother." Jake's eyes filled with pain. "Yeah, a long time ago." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I felt your heart. You have suffered too." He rubbed his face. "Is that how your magic works? You feel things." "It is not magic to me," she said. "It is life, energy, emotion. All living things are connected through it." Jake sat quietly for a long moment. "Can you tell me everything?" he asked. "About how you got trapped?" There was a pause. Then her voice returned, slower and more distant, like she was remembering something painful. "I was the daughter of a queen. My people ruled many worlds. But we were not kind. We were strong, proud, and cruel. I saw how we hurt others. I spoke out. I said we should make peace. I tried to stop the attacks. The Royal Council said I was weak. They accused me of betrayal. They said I was touched by human kindness." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Human kindness?" "Yes," she replied. "I once met a human, long ago. He showed me compassion when I was hurt during a mission. He didn't ask for anything. He just helped me. It changed how I saw the galaxy." Jake leaned closer to the screen. "What happened to him?" "They erased him, erased the memory of him, but I still remember." There was silence between them. Jake whispered, "They locked you up because you wanted peace. And because I believed in humans," she added. "That was my final crime." Jake stood up. He felt a mix of anger and sadness inside. The idea that someone could be locked away for 5 centuries just for being kind, it didn't sit right with him. He walked back outside, the dust of the moon swirling around his boots. The cage glowed again, and Lyra's eyes followed him. "Can you feel anything now?" he asked. "Your presence is making the magic weak," she said. "I don't understand it, but the curse reacts to your energy." Jake thought for a moment. "What if I stay?" he asked. "What if I keep visiting you every day? Maybe I can break it." "Jake," she said gently, "they will come." "Who?" "The Watchers, the ones who guard the curse. They will know it's breaking." Jake laughed a little. "Let them come." He walked closer again. This time, he stopped just a few feet from the cage. "I don't care if it's dangerous," he said. "You're not a monster. You don't deserve this." Lyra blinked slowly. Her voice shook a little in his mind. "No one has said that to me in 500 years. Just then, the air changed. Jake felt it. He turned. The sky above the moon was turning darker, unnaturally dark, like something was blocking the stars. Jake's scanner beeped again. He checked the screen. Unidentified signal detected. Approaching fast. Not friendly. "Lyra," he said, stepping back. "I think you were right. They're coming." Jake ran to his ship and checked the weapons system. It was damaged, barely working. He looked back at the cage. At her. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not leaving you here." Then he saw it. Carved into the side of his ship, letters that weren't there before. Strange, glowing symbols that hadn't been scratched in by hand or machine. Jake stepped closer and read them slowly as they translated into his screen. "Do not free the prisoner. She will destroy everything." His heart skipped. He turned back to the cage. Lyra's face looked the same. Calm. Watching. But Jake wasn't sure anymore. The warning wasn't just old data. Someone had just left it. Right on his ship. The forbidden truth. Jake couldn't sleep. He sat inside his small ship, staring at the message burned into the side. "Do not free the prisoner. She will destroy everything." The letters glowed faintly, fading slowly as if they had never existed at all. But Jake knew they were real. Someone, or something, had left him a warning. He turned off the ship lights and sat in silence. Outside, the moon was quiet. The crater still glowed in the distance. The strange energy cage floated peacefully, and Lyra drifted inside it like a ghost from another world. But nothing felt peaceful anymore. Jake replayed Lyra's words in his mind. She claimed she was locked away for trying to make peace, that she had believed in humans, that she had been betrayed. Her voice, soft and aching, still echoed in his mind. But now, the warning on his ship made him question everything. Was she really a victim? Or something far worse? He opened his ship's data system again, searching for more answers. This time, he dug deeper. Not just into known alien languages or magic archives, but into blacklisted files. Forgotten histories, stories whispered by old traders and soldiers. Finally, he found something. The Order of Silence. A hidden group of ancient magic users. They had vanished centuries ago, but their influence remained. They didn't fight with weapons. They fought with words, curses, and light. They believed in controlling power, not destroying it. When someone became too dangerous, they didn't kill them. They erased them. They locked them in magic that lasted longer than death. Jake leaned in. One name kept appearing. The Moon Queen. An unnamed royal who had nearly torn the galaxy apart. They claimed she had used forbidden magic to bend stars, stop armies, and pull life out of planets. She had grown so powerful that even her own people feared her. So they trapped her inside a cage of living light and cast her far away from all stars. Jake froze. Could it be? He quickly cross-checked the descriptions. A silver-haired woman, glowing eyes, energy that reacted to emotion. It was her. Lyra. Jake sat back in his seat, stunned. If the legends were true, she wasn't just a prisoner. She was once a god among mortals. And yet, when he had spoken to her, she didn't seem cruel. She seemed broken, gentle, even kind. Could both be true? He stepped out of the ship again. The wind on the moon was still. The energy field in the crater still shimmered in soft waves. He walked slowly toward it. Lyra's eyes opened before he even spoke. "You found something," she said. Jake nodded. "Yeah, I did." He stood just a few steps away from the cage, staring into her face. "There are stories about you. Terrifying ones." "Yes," she replied calmly. "I knew you would find them." "You used forbidden magic," Jake said. "They say you almost destroyed entire planets." Lyra closed her eyes slowly. "What they say is not completely false. But it is not the full truth either." Jake's voice hardened. "Then tell me everything." There was a long pause. Then Lyra's voice came, slower than before. "They wanted to make war. I wanted peace. But peace needs strength. I used the magic to stop a war from spreading. Yes, I used power, more than any had ever seen. But I did not destroy worlds. I saved them." Jake's fists tightened. "But you could have, if you wanted to." Lyra opened her eyes. There was sadness in them. "Yes," she whispered, "I could have. And that is why they feared me." Jake didn't know what to believe. He had seen monsters hide behind pretty faces, but Lyra didn't hide. She had told him the truth, at least part of it, from the start. "Why didn't you fight the curse?" he asked. "Why let them trap you?" She smiled faintly. "Because I believed someday someone would come who could see past fear, someone who would see the truth in my heart. I waited, Jake, for you." He felt a chill. "Why me?" "Because your soul shines in a way the magic doesn't understand. You feel pain, but still choose kindness. That is a rare light in this galaxy." Suddenly, a loud hum echoed across the sky. Jake turned. A dark shadow passed over the moon. His scanner beeped wildly again. "Unknown ship detected. Large. Armed. Approaching fast." Jake's heart pounded. He ran back to his ship and looked through the scope. A massive vessel was descending. Black, sharp-edged, and completely silent. No signal. No lights. Just darkness and cold metal. The Watchers. They had come. Jake activated his comms. "Lyra, what do they want?" "They want to stop the cage from breaking," she said calmly. "They will kill you, Jake. You must run. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice." Jake grabbed a pulse rifle from under his seat. It was old, scratched, but still worked. He stepped outside and pointed it at the sky as the enemy ship landed on a nearby ridge. The ground shook. A figure stepped out. Tall, armored in black. Its eyes glowed red like burning suns. It was not human. It wasn't even fully alive. Jake felt something cold slide into his mind. A voice, not Lyra's, spoke directly into his skull. "You were warned." Jake raised his weapon. "I'm not afraid." "Then you are a fool." The creature began to walk toward him. Slow, powerful steps. Behind it, 2 more shadows followed. Jake aimed. His hands shook. Lyra's voice returned, urgent this time. "Jake, they don't want to fight you. They want to erase you. Mind and memory. If they touch you, you will disappear like dust." Jake didn't move. He stood between the cage and the enemy. The figure stopped just a few feet away. It looked past Jake, straight at Lyra. "The cage must remain. The universe is safer with her forgotten." Jake took a step forward. "You locked away someone who only wanted peace. She is chaos dressed as kindness. You will not understand until it is too late." Jake's finger tightened on the trigger. But then Lyra's voice cut in. "Jake, let me speak to them." He hesitated. The air shimmered. A small opening formed in the cage, just a flicker of light. From it, Lyra's voice grew louder. You call me chaos. You fear me because I felt love. I held back my power for centuries, and I still do, but I will not let you hurt him. The Watcher froze. For a moment, the sky went silent. Then, without a word, it turned and walked back to its ship. The others followed. Jake stared, stunned. What just happened? Lyra's voice was soft again. You made them doubt. The dark ship rose and disappeared into the sky. Jake dropped his rifle. His hands were shaking. He turned back to Lyra. I don't know what you are, he said honestly, but I believe you don't want to hurt anyone. She smiled. Then that belief may be the key to breaking the rest of this curse. The Watchers awaken. The stars above the moon returned to silence, but Jake's heart didn't. It still pounded in his chest like a war drum. The dark ship, the Watcher's vessel, had vanished as silently as it came, disappearing into the black void between galaxies. But Jake knew it wasn't over. He stood in front of the glowing cage where Lyra floated, her silver hair drifting gently like mist underwater. The small crack in the energy field shimmered softly, a thin line of broken light that hadn't grown, but hadn't healed either. It was holding on just barely, like it knew something inside it was changing. Jake stepped closer. The air around the cage buzzed again, not with anger, but with curiosity, as if it was watching him too. You made them leave, he said. How? Lyra's eyes opened slowly. They glowed with soft gold now, not the usual icy white. Because for the first time in centuries, I didn't feel like a prisoner. I felt like someone worth protecting. Jake blinked. That's all it took. No, she said gently. It took you. They saw what I had forgotten, what they hoped I had lost. Connection. Humanity. They are built to fear emotion because it breaks their control. Jake exhaled and sat on a nearby rock. The moon's surface was dry and cracked, but under the crater's light, it looked like glass. He looked up at her again. You said the curse responds to emotion, that it reacts to me. But what does that mean, really? Lyra floated closer to the cage's edge. Her face was no longer pale and distant. It was warmer now, softened by something new. Trust. The cage was created using living energy. It feeds on fear, on silence, on stillness. But you bring the opposite. Life, motion, feeling. Jake raised an eyebrow. So I'm like a virus to it. She smiled. More like a cure. He chuckled and looked at his hand. The burn was still there, but healing. A glowing scar had formed on his palm. It pulsed softly with the same color as the cage. Is this part of the connection too? He asked. Lyra nodded slowly. You carry part of the magic now. It has marked you. That means the cage will either weaken when you're near, or try to destroy you. Jake looked at the scar, unsure how to feel. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled. A low, distant quake shook the moon's crust. It wasn't violent, but it wasn't natural either. Jake jumped to his feet. What now? His ship's sensors lit up. Red alerts, no signal from space, but something deep underground. He checked the scanner. A strange energy was rising, slowly but steadily, from beneath the moon's core. Jake looked back at Lyra. What is that? Her voice came, this time laced with worry. The Watchers left, but they didn't trust you. They activated the last defense. The deep guard. Jake frowned. The what? A machine. A creature. Both. It sleeps beneath this moon, and it's meant to destroy anyone who tries to break the cage fully. Jake stared at her, then at the ground. You mean to tell me there's more? Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. They built layers upon layers. Even if I tricked the Watchers, even if I convinced a soul to help me, they wanted to make sure no one reached me without paying a price. Jake's mouth was dry. What kind of price? Lyra opened her eyes again. They were sad. You. The ground trembled again, this time harder. Jake nearly fell over. Dust lifted into the air, and a faint hum, deep and mechanical, began to rise. He ran back to his ship. Inside, the screen glowed with new data. Life form detected below surface. Massive size. Energy signature. Ancient tech magic fusion. Hostile probability. 100%. Jake sighed. Of course it is. Outside, the crater cracked. A long line opened in the ground, glowing with orange light. Something was coming up. Jake looked back at Lyra. Do I fight it? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, if you do, you may die. But if you don't, it will destroy me, and you won't have another chance. Jake closed his eyes. He had faced death before, but never for someone he barely knew. And yet, somehow, Lyra didn't feel like a stranger. He grabbed his rifle again, checked the energy level. Only 30%. He attached a small explosive to his belt, a last resort. All right, he muttered. Let's see what this thing is. The crater exploded. A tower of metal and stone burst from beneath the ground, rising like a spine. Giant legs unfolded from it, 6 of them, each slamming into the ground with heavy force. A head emerged, long and narrow, with no eyes, but glowing blue patterns all over its surface. It wasn't a beast, it was a guardian. The Deep Guard. Jake fired once. The shot hit one of its legs. Sparks flew, but it didn't stop. The Deep Guard turned slowly, as if scanning the area. Then its head swiveled toward the cage. It had one purpose. Jake ran. He activated a small beacon on his belt. It shot a signal into the sky, calling his drone unit. 2 small flying drones zipped down from the ship and hovered over the battlefield. Jake gave a command. Distract it. The drones flew toward the Deep Guard, flashing lights and firing small energy blasts. The creature paused, turned its head, and fired a beam of raw magic from its chest. One drone exploded instantly. The other dodged and fired again. Jake used the moment to run toward the cage. Lyra, tell me how to break it. Now. Her voice was strained, as if the presence of the Deep Guard was draining her. The crack. Aim your energy into it. Your thoughts, your memories. Let the cage feel who you are. Jake stared at her. That's insane. It's the only way. He took a breath, placed his burnt hand against the edge of the crack. It stung. Light burned through his veins. But he didn't let go. He closed his eyes. He thought about his brother, about the war, about saving people, even when it didn't make sense. He thought about Lyra's voice, her pain, her strength. The cage pulsed. The crack widened. The Deep Guard noticed. It turned, raised a massive leg, and began charging at Jake. Come on, Jake whispered. Just a little more. The light from the cage wrapped around his body. It didn't burn now. It was warm. Familiar. He saw a vision. Lyra's past. Her standing in front of her people. Refusing to strike. Refusing to bow. Crying as they cursed her. Then another. Lyra reaching out, whispering to a dying child on a ruined world. Her touch healing. Her kindness stronger than magic. Jake opened his eyes. I see you now, he whispered. Not a monster. Not a queen. He stepped forward. Just a person who tried to save too much. The crack exploded. The cage shattered in a storm of light. Lyra fell to the ground. Real. Alive. She gasped, her body shaking, her voice no longer in his mind, but in the air. Jake ran forward, caught her in his arms. Behind them, the Deep Guard roared. Between life and magic. The crater was no longer silent. It shook with every step of the Deep Guard. The ancient machine beast howled like thunder, its 6 legs pounding into the cracked surface of the moon. Its glowing patterns flared brighter, turning from blue to red. Rage colors. It had one purpose: protect the cage. But the cage was gone. Jake held Lyra in his arms, her weight real, her body warm. For centuries, she had only existed in light and memory. But now she was here, breathing, blinking, her skin soft against his fingers. Her lips trembled. Her voice came out as a whisper, her first real voice in over 500 years. "Jake, you broke it." Jake looked into her golden eyes. "You're free." Before she could speak again, the deep guard let out another roar. It saw them. It knew its mission had failed, and it would not allow failure to exist. The machine charge. Jake grabbed Lyra's hand. "Can you run?" She tried to stand. Her knees wobbled, but she nodded. "I'll try." Together, they stumbled toward the ship. Jake pressed a button on his belt and called the drone back to cover them. A flash of light fired from above. It hit the deep guard's leg, slowing it for a moment. Not enough. Jake turned and fired his pulse rifle again. This time, the blast hit the creature's side. Sparks flew, and a piece of armor fell off. But the deep guard didn't stop. It was made to survive. Made to kill. They reached the edge of the ship. Jake pushed Lyra inside. "You stay here," he said. "Lock the door. I'll buy time." Lyra's eyes widened. "No, Jake. I said stay." He ran back out, ignoring the pain in his legs. He needed to keep the deep guard away from the ship, just long enough for Lyra to recover her strength. The creature's head turned. Its chest began to glow. Jake dove behind a rock as a beam of raw energy exploded past him, slicing through the ground like a sword made of lightning. Dust flew into the air. Inside the ship, Lyra touched the wall. The lights flickered. She could feel the energy, Jake's energy. His emotions were still tied to the cage's magic, and now that magic lived inside him. It was connected to her too. She closed her eyes, placed a hand over her heart, and whispered something ancient, words no one had spoken since before the wars, a spell not of destruction, but of memory. She saw him, Jake, a little boy running through the streets of Earth, laughing with his brother. Years later, holding his brother's hand as bombs fell from the sky. She saw Jake's heart, scared but still beating with hope. Tears slid down her cheeks. He gave everything, just to help someone like me. Outside, Jake rolled behind another rock. The deep guard was getting faster. Its legs were digging into the ground like drills. Another blast nearly vaporized the drone in the sky. Jake fired again. This time, he hit a joint in one of the legs. The deep guard stumbled, but it didn't fall. The ground beneath Jake cracked. A pulse wave sent him flying backward. He hit the ground hard, his weapon sliding out of reach. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He turned his head and saw the creature coming. "No," he whispered. Inside the ship, Lyra opened her eyes. She stood slowly. Her body was still weak, but her magic, her real magic, was returning. She stepped outside. The moment her foot touched the moon's surface, the air changed. The crater responded. Lights flared up from the ground, swirling around her like wind made of stars. The deep guard froze. Lyra raised her hand. "Enough," she said. The creature stopped moving. Its glowing red patterns turned purple, then blue. It stood perfectly still. Jake stared in disbelief. "You stopped it." Lyra walked toward it, slowly, carefully. Her eyes locked with the deep guard's. For a moment, nothing moved. Then she spoke in the old language of the Order. "You were made to guard a lie. You were forced to serve a curse. But the curse is broken. You are free now." The deep guard shuddered. Then it knelt. The great machine dropped to one knee in front of her like a soldier honoring a queen. Jake couldn't believe his eyes. Lyra turned to him. "Help me. We need to shut it down peacefully." Jake limped forward, pain shooting through his body. He joined her, placing a hand on the deep guard's metal chest. Together, they whispered the last words of the unlocking spell. The lights faded. The deep guard shut down. Silence returned. Jake fell to the ground, gasping. Lyra rushed to him. "Jake, are you hurt?" He laughed weakly. "Only everywhere." She smiled and helped him sit up. "You saved me." He shook his head. "No, we saved each other." They sat like that for a while, just breathing, just being. Then Jake looked at her, more serious. "What happens now? The cage is gone. The Watchers will come back." Lyra nodded. "They will, and they will be angry. But they can't trap you again, can they?" "No," she said, "not unless I allow them." Jake touched his chest. The scar on his palm pulsed. "What about this? I feel like something's still inside me." She reached out and took his hand gently. "You carry a part of the cage's magic now. It connects us." Jake looked down. "Does that mean I'm cursed?" "No," she whispered. "It means you're chosen." He looked at her, unsure what that meant. But he felt it too. Something inside him had changed. He wasn't just a pilot anymore. He was something more. Something awakened. Lyra stood and looked at the stars above. "I need to return," she said, "to the people who betrayed me, not for revenge, but for truth. I need to show them who I am now." Jake stood beside her. "Then I'm going with you." She turned in surprise. "You don't have to." "I know," he said, "but I want to." She smiled. They looked at the quiet moon around them. The broken cage, the silent guardian. A place of pain had become a place of peace. For now. But war was coming, and they would face it together. The kiss that broke the curse. They didn't speak much after the deep guard shut down. Jake sat near the ship, holding a warm drink from his ration unit. Lyra stood quietly by the edge of the crater, her long silver hair blowing in the soft breeze of the artificial atmosphere. Her eyes were on the stars, but her thoughts were somewhere else. Something was still unfinished. The cage was broken. The guardian defeated, yet the mark on Jake's hand still glowed. And deep in his chest, he could feel it pulsing, like a second heartbeat that didn't belong to him. Jake knew something was wrong. He stood up and walked to her. "You've been quiet," he said gently. Lyra nodded. "Because I'm listening." "Listening for what?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "The magic. It speaks when it's close to changing." Jake looked at his palm. "It's still in me, isn't it?" "Yes," she said. "And I'm afraid it's hurting you." He raised an eyebrow. "I don't feel pain." "That's what scares me," she said. "The curse was designed to be beautiful, gentle, even comforting, until it eats everything." Jake took a breath. "How do we stop it?" Lyra looked at him now, eyes full of something he hadn't seen before. "Regret. And love. You already did more than anyone ever has," she said. "You touched the cage with your heart, not your hands. That's why it broke." Jake smiled. "You say that like it's a rare thing." "It is," she said, stepping closer. "Most people see power and want to control it. You saw pain and tried to heal it." Jake looked into her golden eyes. They weren't glowing now. They looked human, real. "You've changed too," he said. "I feel more alive than I ever did," she replied. "And that is what's dangerous." He frowned. "Dangerous?" "The Watchers cursed me because I believed in peace, but now I believe in something even more dangerous than peace." Jake leaned in. "What's that?" "Hope." The word hung in the air like a spell. Suddenly, the ground beneath them pulsed, not shaking, but responding, as if the moon itself could feel their closeness. Lyra placed her hand over Jake's heart. "The magic in you isn't just from the cage," she said. "It's from me. When you kissed the edge of the crack, you gave me life. But it also pulled part of my essence into you." Jake blinked. "So, we're linked?" "Yes," she whispered. "You carry part of my soul, and I carry part of yours." He looked down. The scar on his hand glowed brighter. Lyra closed her eyes. "I know how to end the curse completely," she said, "but it will hurt you." Jake touched her cheek gently. "I've been hurting a long time," he said. "This is the first time it means something." Tears formed in Lyra's eyes. "I'm not ready to lose you," she said. Jake laughed softly. "You spent 500 years alone. You can't get rid of me after 5 days." She smiled. "You humans, always surprising." Then, without another word, she leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't fiery. It was soft, gentle, real. And as their lips touched, the moon lit up. Light burst from the ground. The sky turned gold. The stars seemed to stop moving. The deep guard's body rose into the air, then dissolved into dust. Jake felt it instantly. His chest burned, but not with pain, with truth. He saw every piece of Lyra's past, her battles, her betrayal, her kindness. He felt her loneliness across the centuries, the aching silence of being forgotten, the weight of being feared for simply wanting peace. And she saw him, the boy who lost his brother, the soldier who walked away from war, the man who still believed in people even after the universe told him not to. They broke apart, gasping. Jake fell to his knees. Lyra caught him, holding him close. The light around them began to fade. The stars returned to their normal place, and the mark on Jake's palm disappeared. "It's done," Lyra whispered. Jake opened his eyes. "So, I'm not dying." She laughed through her tears. "No, you're healing." They sat there, wrapped in silence. Then something unexpected happened. A voice came from the sky. "This is Commander Rella of the Galactic Alliance. We picked up a magical surge from this system. Identify yourselves immediately." Jake looked at Lyra. She stood slowly and looked toward the sky. "It's time." He helped her up. "Are they friends?" Lyra nodded slowly. "They will try to be. But some will still fear me." "Then I'll stand with you," Jake said. She looked at him. "You don't have to." "I know," he said, "but I want to." Moments later, a sleek ship appeared above the crater. It hovered silently before sending down a landing beam. A team of soldiers stepped out, dressed in silver armor, weapons ready. Jake stepped in front of Lyra. One of the soldiers stepped forward. "Is that her?" he asked quietly, almost in awe. "The Moon Queen." Lyra nodded gently. "Not a queen anymore. Just Lyra." The soldier lowered his weapon. Another soldier, younger, stepped forward with a trembling voice. "My grandmother used to tell stories about you. She said you could stop wars with a word." Lyra smiled. "Words are still the most powerful thing I have." Jake leaned close to her. "I thought kisses worked pretty well, too." She blushed and gently elbowed him. The commander stepped forward. "We need to talk, Lyra. There are still those in the council who will want answers." "You'll have them," she said. Jake looked at the crater one last time. It was empty now. No cage. No machines. No magic. Just peace. As the Alliance ship prepared for departure, Lyra and Jake stood hand in hand. And above them, the stars blinked softly, like they knew that somewhere between light and darkness, something rare had happened. A curse was broken, and a new future had begun. The warrior's promise. The Galactic Alliance ship soared gently across the stars, its engines humming like a lullaby in the vast silence of space. Inside, Jake sat beside a large observation window, watching the stars stretch and bend as the ship moved through jump space. It was quiet, too quiet for someone who had just escaped death, broken an ancient curse, and kissed a 500-year-old alien legend. But Jake wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about her. Lyra stood at the far side of the room, speaking with the Alliance commander, Rella. Her voice was calm, strong, and clear. She was explaining everything: her imprisonment, The betrayal of the royal court, the magic that cursed her, and the human who broke it. Jake. Even as she spoke to the highest officers in the galaxy, Lyra wasn't dressed in robes or armor. She wore simple clothes now, just a soft gray tunic and black boots. No crown, no glowing eyes, just Lyra. And somehow, she looked more powerful than ever. Jake watched as she turned toward him, caught his gaze, and smiled. It was the kind of smile that made him forget how far from Earth he was. After her debriefing, she joined him by the window. "They believe me," she said softly, almost surprised by her own words. "They believe us." Jake nodded. "Took them long enough." She sat down beside him. "Some on the council still want to examine you. They think you've absorbed too much of the cage's magic." Jake rolled his eyes. "What am I, a science project?" "They're afraid," she said gently. "Magic scares them. So does kindness." Jake leaned his head back. "Well, too bad. I'm not giving either one up." Lyra smiled, then grew quiet. Her eyes drifted back to the stars. "There's something I need to do," she said. Jake straightened. "What is it?" "I need to go back. Not to the moon, but further. To the world I tried to save all those years ago. The one where the war almost began." Jake raised an eyebrow. "That place still exists." She nodded. "Barely. It's broken. Forgotten. But people still live there, descendants of those who were caught between powers they never understood. And you want to help them." Lyra looked at him with gentle eyes. "I made a promise. Long ago. I told a mother, crying over her child, that I would return one day when I had the strength. I want to keep that promise." Jake didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Do you want me to come with you?" She hesitated. "You've done enough. You gave me freedom. A new chance. Maybe you deserve to rest." Jake chuckled. "Rest is boring." She smiled, but still looked unsure. "You're afraid I'll get hurt again," he said. Lyra nodded. "I can't lose you." Jake took her hand in his. "Then don't go alone." Silence passed between them, but it was full of understanding. She leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, watching stars flicker by, two souls bound not by time or race, but by choice. 3 days later, the ship arrived at the edge of a forgotten star system. The planet was small and scared. From orbit, it looked like a broken coin, one side blackened by past wars, the other half struggling with thin patches of green and water. Lyra looked down at it. "Before my imprisonment, this was a place of songs. People danced in the trees. Their rivers glowed at night. I wanted to protect that light." Jake adjusted his pack. "Then let's bring it back." They landed in a dusty field. No cities greeted them. Only quiet villages, wind-worn homes, and children who ran barefoot through cracked soil. As they walked into the main square, eyes turned. Whispers rose. Old ones stared at Lyra like ghosts had returned. One woman, wrinkled and blind in one eye, approached her slowly. Her voice cracked with age. "It's you, the Silver One." Lyra knelt before her. "I kept my promise," she said. "I came back." The woman reached out, touched Lyra's face, and began to weep. In the days that followed, everything changed. Lyra healed the sick. She taught villagers how to draw energy from the soil without stealing from it. She rebuilt wells with her bare hands, lifting stone and earth with the light in her palms. Jake worked beside her, laughing with children, fixing tools, and sharing stories of Earth, of music, food, and silly movies. They became part of the village. Not as rulers, not as heroes, just as people. One night, weeks later, Jake woke up to find Lyra sitting outside alone, staring at the stars. He joined her. "You can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "I keep dreaming." "Good dreams or bad?" "Both," she said. "In some dreams, I'm still trapped. In others, I'm flying." Jake looked at her. "What do you want now?" She thought about it. "I want to live," she said simply, "not to be feared or remembered, but just to live." Jake nodded. "Then let's do it together." She turned to him. "I love you, Jake." The words were soft, scared, hopeful. He reached out, brushed a lock of hair from her face. "I love you too." Then they kissed again, not to break a curse this time, but to build something new. Years passed. The village became a town. The town became a city. People came from across the stars to learn from the woman who once shook empires and the human who reminded her of love. Together, they brought peace, not through war, but through action, day by day. No statues were built, no legends written, but every child born on that planet knew one story. That once, a prisoner of magic was freed not by power, but by a kiss. And the man who kissed her kept his promise. He never left. One quiet morning, many years later, a little girl with silver eyes stood at the edge of a field. Her father sat beside her, watching the sunrise. "Papa," she asked, "is it true that Mama used to be a queen of stars?" Jake, now older but still smiling, looked down at her. "She was more than a queen," he said. "She was a promise kept." The girl giggled and ran off. From behind, Lyra stepped out of their small home, her hair now streaked with silver and wisdom, her smile unchanged. Jake turned to her and took her hand. And as the sun rose over the planet they saved, they stood together, no longer warrior and wanderer. Just a family. Just a future, built on one simple truth. Sometimes, the smallest acts, kindness, trust, a single kiss, can break the oldest chains